Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Philip and I'm a landscape photographer based in the Midwest, and on this channel we talk about landscapes, nature, and traveling and how those go together. And in this video I'm going to give you 5 tips on planning your next photography trip. Okay, so maybe you've been doing photography for a little while and you've shot everywhere you can think of in your hometown, and you start thinking to yourself, where can I go to take more pictures? So that leads us to my first tip, and that's how do you find locations? So we're gonna go ahead and jump into the computer and I'll show you how to do that. We're going to look at Google. Now Google is the largest search engine in the world and it's a great place to get started. So it's literally as simple as typing in where to take photos near me, and that can pop you into a whole list of places and kind of just to get you started. Another place where you can look to find photo locations is Instagram. Just about everyone has Instagram. It's one of the largest picture platforms in the entire world. So let's just say you come across something on your feed that you see that you like, and you say, oh hey, I really enjoy this picture. So you can go ahead and save that location, and after a while you'll start to get some locations saved up, and a lot of those, depending on what you like, might be in the same place. So that can lead you to potentially a state that you might want to go take photographs in. That's where I like to use a resource called Loaded Landscapes. This is a very helpful website. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I just like to use this website. So you can go to this best locations for landscape photos tab, and it will actually give you a lot of different options. Let's just say you live in the United States. So from here you can use their list. They have a list of all 50 states where you can go. So maybe you would want to look in your home state. For this example, we can look in California because that was where my last trip took place. If you want to check that out, there's a link up here. So we can look at this website, and it will actually has these neat little maps that you can zoom into, and it has all of these location dots, and you can check a location. So let's just say that you want to fly into Los Angeles. That's a major destination. So then you can look at these places around the Los Angeles area to maybe plan a trip around that. In my trip, I spent some time in San Francisco, so you could look around San Francisco for some places to take photographs. Also, this site will give you a whole lot of other different ideas for places in California, for example. So Yosemite is in here. It'll give you larger guides to where some more spots in Yosemite are. We have Mono Lake, Death Valley, and tons of places all over California. So this website is actually where I usually start first, and I highly recommend it. Could not recommend it enough. So another resource that I like to use for planning trips is Google Maps, and probably the second most important. What Google Maps allows you to do is save potential locations that you'd like to travel to. So if you're anything like me and you're obsessed with traveling and researching places to go to take pictures, as you'll see, I have plenty of places saved all over the United States of where I would like to go someday. So let's just go back into California to stick to my most recent trip, and what you'll see is that at some point when you've collected all of these locations that you might like to take pictures, you have what I like to call a potential route figured out. So here I knew that I really wanted to go to Death Valley National Park, Yosemite National Park. I definitely wanted to visit San Francisco and the Redwoods. So if we look at that, for me, the most logical way to do that was to fly into Las Vegas and then come over to California and work my way up and then over. So not only do I have these places saved in my phone, which you always have on you anyway when you're on location, so you can find these places once you get there and use your GPS, but it also will help you find out where you need to fly into, and depending on the length of your trip, also your mode of transportation, which is actually my third tip, but we'll get into that in just a second. The last website that I would like to talk about is Google Earth. Google Earth is one of the most powerful ways to scout electronically before you've had a chance to actually visit a location in person. So a lot of the times when I'm traveling personally, I don't have all the time in the world to scout. I'm usually cramming a lot of places in to try to see the most as possible. So what I will like to do is go into Google Earth and use this as a way to, like I said, virtually scout a location so I can maybe have an idea of what I would like to do. So if you saw my last vlog from San Francisco, you'd know that I shot at the Golden Gate Bridge. So if you know that that's a location you'd like to visit to, you can just go into Google Earth and type in Golden Gate Bridge. I already have it here on my recent searches, and Google Earth will zoom you into that location, which this is really cool, and you can kind of see what's going on here. And from there, Google Earth works just like Google Maps, and if you see these little picture icons down here, it will tell you places where people go to take pictures. One of these is Marshall Beach, and if you look up here in the right corner, it'll give you just like one example of a picture taken at Marshall Beach. So that might be a location that you might want to save for yourself. Over here we have Battery Spencer. That's also a really popular location to take photographs. And over here we have this Golden Gate viewpoint, which like I said, if you watched the last vlog, the link is somewhere up here. That was a place that I photographed. So if you would like, you can hold down Shift and click around with your mouse, and this will actually rotate the map for you, so you can kind of get an idea. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom out or zoom in, and this will kind of give you an idea potentially of what your photograph might look like. So although I had never been to San Francisco before, I knew that if I was up on this hill, that I would be able to get the Golden Gate Bridge as my mid-ground, and with the skyline of San Francisco as a background. Also, having being said that, I could go over here to look at another location around the Golden Gate Bridge and say that, oh, there's some waves down here, some rocks that could make an interesting foreground, and I used this information to let myself figure out that I was going to be create a photo like the one that I'm going to show you here on the screen. And it was nice to have all this information kind of at least in the back of your head to know potentially what photos that I would want to create more. So I can't speak enough about Google Earth. If you're not using Google Earth to scout before you go to a place, you are doing yourself a disservice. So out of all these places or all these websites that I will have links for down in the description, I would highly recommend using Loaded Landscapes to find your locations, and Google Earth to scout the locations. Those are probably my top two, and then I would use Google Maps third to save all of these locations so that you can find them and use your GPS while you're traveling. So let's go on to tip number 2. Okay, so tip number 2 is going to be what to bring. Now, I specifically can't tell you what to bring because I'm not you. I don't know what you like to create and how you like to create it. However, I can tell you that knowing what you want to create and where you're going is going to give you an idea of what you need. So for example, when I went to California, I personally know that I like to show big, wide open scenes, so I knew I was going to need a wide angle lens. And also, I knew that it was going to come in handy to have a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, just because I know that sometimes I want to zoom in and have some detail shots. Because of this type of trip and what I was going to be doing, I knew that I, for example, did not want to bring my wildlife lens. The most important thing and advice that I would like to give you is to not bring too much. That is going to be the worst thing that you can possibly do. bringing too much photography gear is only going to weigh you down and slow you down. Especially if you're flying, you're going to run into issues with being over your weight limit for your bag, which is never a good thing and can get really expensive. Also, if you're like me and you do any sort of hiking with your photography, you're going to have to hike all of that gear up a mountain potentially, or down a trail, and let's be honest, no one really wants to do that. So figure out what you really need. If you want to look and know more about what I bring to and on photography trips, I do have a video and I'll link that up here somewhere if you really want to go check that out. But like I said, this is going to be an individual choice for you. So that wraps it up for tip number 2. If you're getting value out of this video, go ahead and leave a like. I would appreciate it. And we're gonna jump back into the computer for tip number 3. Okay, so we figured out where we're going, or where you'd like to go. Now we have to figure out how you're gonna get there. So depending on how far away this location is will determine if you're going to drive or if you are going to fly. And to get better deals on flights, I go to kayak.com. So kayak.com is a really great search engine for flights. You can also use a Google Flights as well. But the reason I like kayak.com, as I'm going to show you, is that if you're flexible with locations and dates and things like that, you can get really great deals, and they have a very good program of showing you that. So the best way for this to work is if you're going to have to be willing to go to bigger airports. So for me, I have Denver selected, and you can actually pick to go anywhere. And if you decide over here in the month, so we're just going to pick the month of September, and you can pick depending on how long you'd like to be gone. You select that as well, and you click search, and this is where kayak.com really shines, because you'll see that it gives you prices and locations all over the United States, for example, but it also will give it to you on the entire planet. But just focus on the United States right now. If you look, I can fly to Portland for $67 right now. I can fly to Seattle for $73. San Francisco for $97. I mean, this is pretty incredible. So you can take some time. As long as you're flexible, you can get some really great deals, which will help you save money on your trips. And the next website that I like to use in regards to how you're going to get to a place is enterprise.com. Now, there's a lot of other websites that you can use to get a car rental if your trip is going to require a car rental, but I like to use Enterprise because this is a very reputable company. They have a lot of different cars for you to choose from, and they're going to be in a lot of airports. So I usually like to work with bigger companies just because it makes my life easier. It's not going to be a random company where you're going to have to worry about getting scammed or anything like that. So Enterprise. So right here, I just have it selected to fly into Seattle because it is a trip that I'm potentially planning really soon, and what those prices would potentially be like for this trip. That way I can get an idea of my budget. So you can look at these different types of cars, and technically what I would look for is a car that's going to be easy to sleep in. That's leading into my next tip, which I'll get to that here in just a second. But this is a good way to kind of get an idea of, honestly, for me, if I can't sleep in the car and I'm not going to be able to get a comfortable night's sleep in it, then I won't rent it. So that's my number one deal, and I look for cars that are going to be good for off-roading potentially, and that cars that are going to be comfortable. So those are going to be my two main sites that I use, and like I said, all of the sites are going to be linked down in the description. And okay, so that will lead us on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is going to be where to sleep. Now, I don't really sleep very much on these trips, I'll be honest, but sleep is important, and finding a safe and somewhat comfortable place to sleep is a very important part of traveling. Now, option number 1, you can stay in hotels. If I'm ever going to stay in a hotel, I always use booking.com. You could probably get stuff cheaper, but I just usually like to go with booking.com. what I really would like to highlight, and if you're anything like me, and I know a lot of people are, is that you are trying to stay at the cheapest place possible. So I really want to focus on those options. So that is going to require you to rough it a little bit. So maybe some camping options. So you can stay at national parks. Every national park that I know of has some sort of campground. However, the problem with that is that a lot of these national parks are starting to get a little overcrowded, and it's very difficult to get camping in these places. So your other options is you can stay in national forests that are near these campgrounds. And the great thing about national forests is that they're free. You have free dispersed camping. Also, if you look at the Bureau of Land Management, which is blm.gov, I'll have these links down in the description. These are going to be places where you can stay for free. Now, you are going to have to sacrifice a little bit of comfort. So these places, they usually don't have running water or showers or toilets or things like that. But like I said, the best part about them is that they're free. So if you're like me and you want to travel as much as possible, you are going to have to give up a little bit of comfort to be able to travel more often. One of the resources that I really would like to highlight for this tip is freeroam.com, and again, link in the description. This is a really great website for finding free places to stay. So again, like kayak.com, it gives you a map of all these places in a potential area where you want to stay that you can stay for free. So we can just zoom back in on California, because I'm just choosing to focus on California right now for this trip. But all of these dots are places that you can potentially stay for free. So I was over in the Eastern Sierra, so you can look at this Twin Lakes campground was a place that you could potentially have stayed. And if you want to, you can zoom in and click on here, and it'll give you a rating for the place, which is nice. It'll give you a description of this place, which is really nice. It also has if there's cell service in a place, which is very, very, very helpful. So this is a website that I plan on using a lot more in the future. They do have a cell phone app for Android. I know for sure. I don't know about Apple. I'm an Android user. Sorry, I know I just drew a line in the sand with a lot of you, but I am on Team Android. So I really, really am excited to use freeroam.com. And so basically, my hugest thing is staying anywhere that I can for cheap. And like I said, from tip number 3, I usually will sleep in my car somewhere. You can sleep in Walmart parking lots is another option. Just make sure that wherever you're staying, you feel safe. Kind of follow your instinct with that. If you're going to sleep in your car somewhere, if you don't feel safe, then you probably shouldn't be sleeping there. Before we get to tip number 5, I just want to go ahead and ask you if you've used any of these resources before. What are your thoughts and opinions on them? And if there's a resource that you really like to use, go ahead and leave a comment below and let me know what that resource is. That way we can all kind of just like help each other get the best deals as possible, or find cool campgrounds or cool places to visit. And with that being said, let's go to tip number 5. Okay, and my 5th and final tip is simply just gonna be to have fun. Let's be honest here, the whole point of traveling is to have fun. I know that we all want to go get awesome footage and take really awesome pictures, but if you're traveling and you're not having fun, you are seriously missing the point. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you want to sleep in and you're tired, sleep in. If you want to stay a little bit longer in a place because it means you'll miss time in another place, then go do that. Don't be afraid to meet people. You're gonna meet a lot of really great, awesome people while you're traveling that are gonna be like-minded people. You just have to be willing and open to talk to those people and to meet them. Photography, videography, all that kind of stuff, it's not the end game. It's really just something to do while you are moving around to all these places that you'd like to see. So again, just have fun. So that's gonna wrap it up. If you like this video, leave a like. If you have any comments or questions, drop them down below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, go ahead and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching. Bye.